Hello, you amazing people. You're listening to the Marketing and Coffee Podcast, the show that brings you the latest in marketing, especially in the UAE market, with your host, Lijo Etup.
Hello, welcome to episode 31. While I thought it was going to be a guest session, I realized there should be a espresso series because of the recent downfall of Spree. It has been placed under liquidation, and I kept thinking it came in the close heels of Awok.com. It got me thinking that there's so many e-commerce. They had funding, they had everything. What went wrong? Now, I cannot address the fact of the financial issues, but yes, I'll try to address from the marketing point of view. During this pandemic, when offline businesses were facing resistance, more and more businesses moved online and added up to the crowd. Standing out from the crowd is becoming challenging day by day. A holistic e-commerce marketing strategy is made up of marketing tactics both off and on your website. So I feel a sound marketing strategy can help you build awareness, drive customer loyalty. As I said, regarding non-marketing matters, I really cannot say what let us follow Spree and Awok. Between e-commerce and various e-commerce players I speak to, I can see a split of the e-commerce market into three broad segments. What I would suggest you to think is about a typical pyramid in this model, and all needs different approaches. There is top of the pyramid, middle of the pyramid, and of course the bottom of the pyramid. Jeff Bezos once said, if everything you do needs to work on a 3-year time horizon, then you're competition against a lot of people. If you're willing to invest on a 7-year time horizon, you are now competing against a fraction of those people. Just by lengthening the time horizon, you can engage in endeavors that you would never pursue. Now, Jeff Bezos and Amazon clearly is on the top of the pyramid with visions of 7 to 10 years to start with. And with a drive which says they are now willing to sow the seeds, let them grow in 5 to 7 years with a stubborn vision and flexible on details. Not many can afford to be Amazon. Very few like Noon and Walmart can afford to even put up a semblance of a fight. Irrespective of your vertical of business, that part of the pyramid is taken, and unless you're willing to beat billions of dollars, you still have a tough fight. I'll come to the middle of the pyramid later. I just covered top of the pyramid and we know who the players are. The bottom of the pyramids are the typical homegrown brands, Facebook and Instagram pages, or even a website or on Shopify, and with almost negligible digital spend and doing some basic boosting. I personally hate that word boosting, and it makes the entire ad industry look bad. But yes, they're comfortable with word of mouth marketing. A lot of them have offline presence also, which they manage simultaneously. Many use things as drop shipping. Very low on investment. The churn within this segment is very high. A lot of people come in and leave. Because if you go back to what Jeff Bezos says, the horizon is not big. The 1 to 2 years, the struggle is real. As long as you can keep the acquisition costs low and keep the operation costs low, you can still make this work and be profitable. It depends on the industry and the category that you are in. Now that brings me to the middle of the pyramid. Spree.com was a classic case where they started at the lower end of the pyramid and worked their way up. There are many such brands like Namshi, Gibson's out there. I would categorize Namshi.com amongst many others. They will struggle to make it to the top of the pyramid, but are one of the strongest players in the middle of the pyramid. What I will try to cover in the podcast, where I see a lot of bulk of the e-commerce players is the middle of the pyramid. As they have the right passion, are investing a lot in terms of money and time than bottom of the pyramid, and often lack the strength of the top of the pyramid. While I can't comment much on optimizing operational costs, or for that matter, pretty much other sides of the operation, let me dive into marketing and more digital marketing. I think every e-commerce player knows this word called lifetime value. I tell all my e-commerce clients to make sure that they categorize the customers into 3 different segments: active, passive, and dormant. Active is something that you can define, like somebody who, and depends on the product category. Suppose you're selling furniture, somebody who buys a furniture once every 3 months. If you're selling food items, somebody who buys your food products every second day. So that depends. But yes, you have to define what is active, passive, and dormant customers for you. And how will you make sure that the dormant customers become more passive, they buy a little less, more, and how does passive customers become more active? You have to categorize this. One size does not fit all. Focusing on customer retention is a cost-effective way to increase sales. So returning customers account for around 25 to 30% of the retailer's revenue. while making just 11% of the total customer base. This is according to Sys Labs. A lot of things can be done in terms of making sure the customers return increase your lifetime value. There could be email, there could be remarketing, retargeting, AI tools. One of the key things that you need to make sure is the product lifespan of the product. Now, it could be measured in days, weeks, months, or years. Product lives can be vary differently among products. For example, FMCG like bread, sandwich has a very short lifespan, a short sales cycle. You need it every second day, third day. Cars, refrigerator, houses got longer lifespan. So for you to have a lifetime value is easier for if the chance of somebody buying from website is comes more often. Product life plays an important creating a marketing pricing strategies. Now, for the shorter your lifespan, the more meaningful customer retention becomes because then that much gives you an opportunity, and that also gives an opportunity for a customer on the other side for you to acquire that consumer. So it's very important. So it all comes with its pros and cons. So once a consumer has made a choice for a product where the purchase behavior cycle is once in 6 months or 9 months, you cannot acquire that customer. But once if your product lifespan cycle is 3 days, 4 days, then you have a huge chance of making sure the customer does come back to the site and buy more. For example, if you're selling swimming pools or cars, then spending time and money on improving customer retention is not that useful, as you won't expect repeat business. What can work with them is to get referral business. While very difficult, getting a consumer to download an app does go a great way to increase lifetime value, as customized notification depending either active, passive, or dormant can be sent to induce specific behaviors. Now, to get a consumer to download an app, that itself it's a very ahead in the lifetime value because the consumer has committed to downloading an app and keeping it there. Second is what I want to talk about is channel-wise acquisition cost. Many times, a lot of people come and ask me, what should be my budget? What should be my acquisition cost that I should look at? Well, it depends on your business. For people who do not know how to calculate consumer acquisition cost, it's simply dividing all the costs spent on acquiring more customers, which is your marketing expenses, by the number of customers acquired in the period the money was spent. For example, if a company spent $1,000 on marketing in a year and acquired 100 customers in the same year, their consumer acquisition cost is what? Yeah, exactly, $10. Now, how much should it be is the question for you. So suppose it now goes down to what is the gross profit that you're making while selling this product. So if you're selling a product at 300 dirhams and your gross margin is 30%, that is 90 dirhams. So if a consumer comes and buys a product for 90 dirhams, you have that leverage of 90 dirhams to acquire the customer. A lot of the e-commerce, and I'm sure that Spree, over-index the acquisition cost. And I feel since they were aggressive in their pricing, they were burning candles on both ends. The gross margins was reduced to acquire new customers, and also they spend more marketing money to acquire that consumer. So the total net cost of final acquisition was so high that for you, that means ended up you're burning cash to make sure that customer stays with you. Eventually, you ran out of cash, and that's what I feel happened. So think channels. So when you are looking at a consumer acquisition cost, you think of multiple channels. So you don't only look at an overall acquisition cost, and the days are gone. You have so much data out there. Is it lower down the funnel acquisition? Are you getting the customers at top of the funnel? Make sure that your entire acquisition architecture is in place where you understand that where is a customer acquisition coming from? Where is the sale being attributed to? Now, attribution is one of the biggest challenges. When you come to realizing that the market should generate revenue and that you need an attribution to track that, the question is which attribution model should you use? There are multiples. Obviously, it would be ideal to track the entire customer journey and be provided with insight into the mind of the buyer as to why they made the decision they did at every inflection point. Unfortunately, for us humans, that is not yet possible. There are a lot of this. There's time decay attribution model. There's direct attribution model. So it's very difficult for us. Of course, depending on the industry, we look at different models. But it is important for you to know what is your acquisition cost per channel, and because that's where you optimize your conversions. The next best thing is attribution modeling, tracking as much of a customer journey as possible. There are, as I said, there are multiple attribution models out there. But of course, that itself, it's a podcast by itself, attribution. There are lots of controversies with still no attribution. Google Analytics has got attribution. Facebook Analytics has got attribution. And we always see that the data, Facebook attribution and the Google attribution data never matches. Everybody is trying to attribute the final sales to themselves. So yes, that's for another day, another conversation. But it is important for you to at least have a fair sense that where are you acquiring the customer from and at what cost. One of the things that people under pitch is the first time value. The first time visitors are strangers to your business. At their first visit, they become aware of your brand. At the awareness stage, they're not ready to make a purchase decision. So you have to understand that the customer who's coming in at that point of time has gone first exposure to the brand. They say that you have to give the brand 7 exposures in the initial stage. Now I think you have to go 20, 25 exposures for the consumer gets convinced to buy. Especially when it comes to e-commerce stores, the first time visitors hold a lot of value. You have spent good marketing money to get that customer at that point of time onto your site. And it's harder to acquire if you're running a PPC campaign. They cost the most. They're not familiar with it. There are multiple reasons why people lose. They abandon the cart. The site wanted me to create an account. That's one of the biggest drawbacks people feel. And you always feel, I want my data. I want consumer to log in. Too long, complicated checkout process. I couldn't see calculate total order. Website had errors. I did not know what the logistics cost. The delivery was too slow. So there are so many permutation combination. It's up to us. I'll cover that more in the conversion rate optimization segment on how to make sure that your first time user value goes up. So there are other impact ways, because when the consumer is coming, you need to understand what are the doubts that could be in mind. Maybe the live chat to engage the shoppers on your channel, or make sure that on the top of the page, the strip that addresses like 24 hours, delivery within 24 hours, good return policies. These are the top worries that's there in the consumer's mind. Next thing I want to address is about effective versus efficient marketing. Recently, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, Girish Upadhyay, who works for Madison Media, about his article about efficient and effective marketing. Making the right choice between efficient and effectiveness in your marketing strategy without skewing towards one can be a catalyst for tremendous growth. This is what we need to identify. So what is efficient marketing? Efficient marketing is essentially where you measure what is the cost per click, what is the cost per acquisition, what is the return on advertising spend. So different efficient models. Effective is more of contribution market share to the business. As a result, effectiveness measures are generally more financially driven. But the question is, okay, this sounds good for top of the pyramid where I look at efficient. For me, as the middle of the pyramid, I need to make every penny count. Not necessarily true. So the question is, middle of the pyramid, e-commerce player afford to look at effective marketing? One cannot ignore it. One of the key metrics one can look at it from efficient marketing point of view is ROS, return on advertising spend. The return on advertisement cannot be looked in isolation though. The same ads can give better ROS if the website is ready to aid the consumer to buy more. Most consumers land on website to buy something specific after seeing an ad. Especially in the beginning, the consumer may be attracted by the price and maybe give your brand a chance. Be aware of the lack of trust the consumer has and ensure the user journey addresses that. For example, easy returns. The focus needs to mix of efficient and effective marketing. Now, how do you do that? How do you make sure that there is effective marketing also? So all that I have to say at this point of time is that not all inefficient marketing is ineffective marketing. So make sure that you have a long-term perspective also for this marketing. Now, one of the biggest challenges that somebody faces is that what happens after the purchase, after the sale, no one builds a brand affinity with just for one purchase, which has been bought by maybe a discount. It's like a leaking bucket. People are bored of social media in the present format. Too much of content, information, no brand loyalty. It's gone. It's followers, a fragment personas. So building a community of followers, no matter how big or small it is, you have to start somewhere. A band of people, a brand ambassador, loyal fans. Make sure there's user-generated content. It's a great way of generating social proof. Now, a lot of the brand experiences and now influencers do play a role in this. Nano influencers play a role. But it is important for an e-commerce players over a longer period on, because I don't see much of e-commerce players doing it, is build a community of followers. There's so much of consumer acquisition that they don't believe that why should somebody be there to build a community and how does it help? Now, so today, I recently had a problem with Amazon. The way they gave me a service of return was amazing. And I may not be a fan, but anytime somebody asks me about how about Amazon's return policy, for example, given Amazon as an example, but it could be true. It's a word of mouth. They said, oh no, it's amazing. They had took back the product immediately. There was no issues, and that helps. Now, for Spree, my wife bought something and they had this policy of the wrong bow, and she had a tough time what was promised on the website and what finally got delivered because there was a big gap. She never became a fan. Brings to the next topic: riches is the niches. If you try to be all things to all people, you won't be anything to anybody. Find your niche. There are brands that is to many things to many consumers, like Amazon. There are various ways to find your niche. You can sit and map features or products that you have with competition where you stand out. You can use there are various models. You can use Michael Porter's 5 forces method to understand the competitive market, or even the strategic group analysis where you see which cluster market you're closest to, or even the share matrix. Basic premise is that you have to find your niche. I cannot take names. I've worked with clients. I've found niches for them within the category. Now, as I said, many things to many consumers, only the brands like Amazon can afford to. Can you afford to in the middle of the pyramid? Highly unlikely. One of the things that Namshi has done in the middle of the pyramid is very strict to a very specific requirement of and premium dress wear. So the entire thing proposition is about lifestyle. Now, if I look at Gibson for that matter in the middle of the pyramid, they have gone ahead and done a very specific. So they are fighting the likes of Carrefour. From a grocery supply, they're fighting the likes of Carrefour. Amazon cannot fight them. So there is strength in finding a niche. So you find your niche. It's through any of the methods that I suggested. Happy to get into a call if required, but then find those niche to make sure that it works for you. Next thing I want to cover is about customization and personalization. Another effective marketing tactic there's so much of data now. Personalized experience to the visitor according to their past actions, using email. BCG says that the person can lift the sales as much as 10%, but the opportunity I feel is much greater than that. Know about your customers. Please understand the consumers today that's buying from you, even in the middle of the pyramid, there's no way that they have not had an exposure to the top of the pyramid brands. It's not like they only buy from the middle of the pyramid or the bottom of the pyramid. They know what they're buying. So their entire experience, the way the retargeting, remarketing, and the also bought series, the AI that works, they have an exposure to the brands of likes of Amazon. So when you see an exposure to that kind of a brand, consumer does not see you as a middle of the pyramid brand. It wants almost the same kind of experience. He says, I'm paying money for something. If I don't find that kind of an experience, then why should I do it? So it's important that you think customize and personalization to the level of Amazon. There are so many tools out there which helps you do that, or you have to build it. After finding the niche, and if you build that personalization and customization, can imagine what it's a win-win for you. So you're taking a niche within that segment and driving hard the kind of personalization journey the consumer has. I spoke earlier about conversion rate optimization. For people who do not know, it's a practice of optimizing a website for on-site conversion and increase sales. Practice CRO helps you identify areas on your site. Where are you losing sale? Who's dropping off? And why? What can you do to capture those missed opportunities? Now, a lot of the brands can afford to put a UX UI engineer and make sure that you do group studies, understand the need base, or even use heat maps to understand what the consumer is doing on the website once they come up with that. So if the process is done through both qualitative and quantitative research, so you give a holistic and unbiased view of how conversion oriented your site is. Once you've conducted your research to identify challenges and opportunities, you can develop hypotheses and test which approaches generate the most sales. But it's important that you go through that journey. The lesser number of steps that you have for conversion, the better for you. The attention span of a consumer is almost negligible. I bought from the websites of friends and families who has got e-commerce. I said, okay, I push myself through. The first user attrition is very high. The attrition that people feel when they're using that brand or landing on the website for the first time, or for that matter, an app. So it's very important that you have the right journey so that the conversion rate is optimized. So look at every step of the way. What are the doubts the consumer will have at that point of time? At the time of checkout, will delivery be his worry? At the time of looking at the product, will the trustworthiness of that product be a worry? While clicking on the product, when you add to cart, Will the fact that will this brand deliver on time be a worry? So there are so many things that plays on the mind of the consumer. It is important that you think through all of those parts. I'm sure the brands like Spree or Awok always had this figured out. But I feel on an overall basis, where they could have gone wrong is making sure that their basic fundamentals of consumer acquisition went wrong and they really burned the candle. Which makes me to come to the next point, which is you have to invest behind tech now. Now, doesn't matter. It's not only about Facebook advertising, Google advertising. There's that much you can do. Facebook has now put a cap of 250 ads, as I spoke in my last podcast. That shows the real estate is under tremendous pressure. Now it's a matter of time. There is TikTok, there is LinkedIn, there is so much of analytics, Google Analytics 4, there's so much understanding at the consumer level. So what you need to do is invest behind the right tech, automation. You have to have automation tools that will automate a large part of what you are doing. So invest behind the right tools. So middle of the pyramid, brands, a lot of brands feel that just doing Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising, and Google advertising, or maybe even push yourself and do Twitter and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, that you have done the journey. But the amount of data that's been generated and for you to take correct action so that you prevent the leakages in the spend that you do is very important. And that's where automation comes in. There's so much that goes into e-commerce, and I really empathize with the journey of the founders who have put their heart and soul and burning that money and the midnight oil to give that service that is required. It is very important that you stay on the course. Make sure that you have the right measures to say that you have a long-term horizon. This is a tough battle, and all the best. I'm available on LinkedIn by the name of Lijo. I run a digital marketing agency by the name of Prodigy Connect. At any given point of time, any doubts or clarification, you can reach out to me LinkedIn. You can reach out to me by email or on my Instagram. I'll be more than happy to address the questions that would have come on this podcast. Thank you once again, and I hope you have had a good learning from this podcast. Thank you.